I want to welcome you to the 15th series of webinars that we've been offering for peer supporters. The webinar is presented by members of the International Association of Peer Supporters with generous assistance from Optum, without whom the series would not be possible. N.A.P.S is solely responsible for the content of the webinar, and the webinar will begin at noon Eastern, and we're only 2 minutes off on start, so we're not doing too bad. Next slide, please. Lynn?
Yeah, I'm sorry. There we go.
Problem. When signing in the webinar website, please be certain you enter a telephone number without an extension. Most of you have done that because you know that it will not take and call you back with an extension. Next slide. I'm the moderator. I welcome you to the 15th in our series of webinars for N.A.P.S. This is a great opportunity for you to learn, to be taught skills that will help you to do your job better and to round out your life a little bit more too. So I think these are wonderful, wonderful opportunities, learning opportunities for all of us. Next slide, please. Telephones will be muted. You may submit questions during the webinar through the chat function. We've been using the chat function already. Please scroll up to the very top of the Send To menu bar and click on everyone so that everyone is seeing your chat that you're taking and writing in the chat box. Okay, next slide, please. These webinars may be recorded and may be available on our website for future viewing. By joining the webinar, you agree that your name, if you choose to provide it, and any interactions you have in the chat or during the Q&A session of the webinar may be included in the recording. Thank you for your participation. So we just needed to let you know that that's going on. I've had the opportunity of working with Lyn on several different projects. She is one of the brightest people I know who is dedicated to taking and bringing forward the individual's voice in their service delivery system. Lyn has a well-rounded career. She's well-known in the consumer movement. She's somebody who has is tremendously respected for her skills and her abilities. And today she's going to be talking to us about a topic that she's extremely passionate about. So without further ado, we have one of the greatest speakers in the world with us today. So let's take a welcome Lyn Legere, please.
Thank you, Peter. Holy moly. Hi, folks. My name is Lynn. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm really glad to be talking about this new role or emerging role in peer support, which is really thinking about the role around employment and educational recovery. And that's really from the perspective of finding things that are meaningful to us in our lives. This isn't about getting jobs, but about how do we find that place of meaning. So what we're going to be talking about as we think about the role of peers, we're also going to be thinking about sort of a different service delivery, not the traditional just get a job, but instead what's good to do now, to do in the future, whatever, because it's meaningful or it's getting us towards something that's meaningful in our lives. It is a topic I'm really passionate about, and that's probably because work and education became such an important part of my recovery, my sense of self in recovery, and I think the other main thing is that poverty is such a huge barrier in our community to recovery, and that this provides an avenue out of poverty. So for both of those reasons, it's really an important topic to me. So if we look at this poll, and this is not a poll that you have to click anything, but just think about for a minute, which of the following are benefits of work? And as we scan down that list, I think it's pretty easy to see that the answer is E, all of the above, and that's why we'll be talking about this today. I want to start with a few of the good old statistics, and it really brings up the dilemma that we have around employment. When we look at unemployment for the general population, it's somewhere around 8% right now, I think. If it gets as high as 10, it's considered really bad. If it gets over that, it's considered crisis. And yet, when we look, we see that people with disabilities have an unemployment rate of greater than 70%. People diagnosed with bipolar and mood disorders have an unemployment rate of over 87%. And that actually came from, I should have updated that, the site reference that came out of a Babylon report that is just new off the press. So these are current statistics. And then, of course, what we see is that people who have been diagnosed with schizophrenia have an unemployment rate of greater than 94%. This is outrageous, right? And yet, when we ask people if they want to work, over 70% say yes. Excuse me. Now, this is a pretty old statistic, and it may be different today. No one knows anymore exactly what the question was that was posed in this original research. But nonetheless, we can guess from this that a large number of people who aren't working wish that they were. So that's a big piece of this employment dilemma, is that people want to work, and yet they're not. Another piece is when we look at the efforts that have been made to support people going back to work. And there's been all sorts of little studies over the years, and I'm not a researcher, and I'm not going to bore you with studies. I'm just going to talk about two big ones because I think they really bring home the message of how we have supported people and how effective or not these have been. One of them is what's called the EIDP study, or the Employment Intervention Demonstration Program. This is a huge program done by Judith Cook, had over 1,600 people, went on for a few years, and it provided people with a really wide variety of employment supports over that time. And yet, at the end of that, 69% of the participants were still in a category that's considered to be what we call the working poor. That means that they were in jobs where they weren't getting benefits in their jobs, and they weren't getting vacation pay, any of that stuff, and there really was not much room to progress further. They were jobs like McDonald's and so forth. And so they were fine for bringing in a little bit of income, but they weren't really fine for thinking about a trajectory that would move people out of poverty or out of their current status in life. The second one is the I.P.S. studies, and I.P.S. stands for Individualized Placement and Support. It's better known as the Evidence-Based Supported Employment, and it's what is used currently in almost all the states across the country. And yet, in their 12-year follow-on study, at the end of 12 years, 89% of the participants are still in the working poor. I think that tells us some really important information that we need to consider. And that is that when we start to think about supporting people, we need to go beyond this idea of get a job and go to work. We need to be thinking about this idea of occupational recovery or vocational recovery, and really that trajectory of how do we go from here to where we want to be. It's part of what I always call dream-centered planning, right? Moving out of really just that idea of getting a job, but really, what burned a fire, or what burned a fire when you were 10? You know, how can we help people tap back into that and then support them along the journey. Some of the older models that we've had have been things like transitional employment models out of clubhouses or mobile units where people go out together. All of these models, though, are models where people stay together with other people who have psychiatric conditions. So it's really what's keeping people segregated from the community. Other employment models are sheltered work, which I'd like to think doesn't even exist anymore. Sadly, it does, and that's where people really do kind of piecemeal work and get paid for it. And then vocational rehabilitation is the other big area, and that's a resource to get entry level into a job of choice. Voc rehab can be very effective when we have support to know how to use it, how to get the best out of it. Frequently, people are frustrated in the process. It's a bureaucratic process because it's government, and people don't always present in a way that lets them get the maximum benefit. Interestingly, Voc rehab can do everything from help someone's teeth get fixed to get tuition and so forth. But again, if people don't know how to access and utilize it and get the most out of it, they frequently don't. And some people have been frustrated by that. As we look, the supported employment, which is what's around the most now, their sort of formula is what are the skills that you have now, what are the likes that you have now, what are the open jobs right now, and that funnels into where a person goes. So again, we're not seeing anything about future, we're not seeing anything about developing a career or developing capability. We're seeing people funneled into what they can do now based on the skills they have now. And I can tell you, by and large, those jobs are not the jobs that most of us want for a long time. It's what we used to call the 5S. And these are filth, food, flowers, filing, and folding. These were all the jobs that maybe a fine starter job, jobs like McDonald's, jobs like stuffing envelopes, working in a mail room, all of these kind of jobs that are fine for beginner jobs. They're probably not the job you want to work for 20 years, and probably not the job that you're going to get your sense of self-esteem out of and so forth. And there are also jobs that some people may choose for life, and in that case, when it comes out of informed choice, I don't want this to sound like I'm saying that the jobs themselves are bad jobs. It's the fact that people get funneled into these jobs, and then they get left in these jobs. Like, that's great. You get your job at McDonald's, and that's the end of the process. And people, not surprisingly, don't stay in those jobs that long. So here's another poll, and I'll just let you read that for a minute. So here are some possibilities that we could do as someone's support. And as we see, it's a really lousy bunch of choices people have, and it's time that we change the paradigm. And that's the great thing about employment peer support, is that it is a way to begin to change the paradigm. It's a way to begin to bring hope and the idea of recovery into employment. And I thank Anna Galitzis from Canada for this fabulous logo. that I just love for peer support. I was hoping she was on the call, but she's not. So peer workers are in a wonderful place to do the very same thing that they do in everywhere else, which is to support and educate both people using services and, in this case, the employment professionals about recovery, about capability, about inspiring hope, about doing all of those things that we do as CPSs or peer workers anyway, just focusing it in on employment. So if we had a poll, this is what it would look like. Now, some of you may have thought B and C, and that is an absolutely inspiring thing to do. I answered a request here and got knocked down. Let me get back. Quick, Jill. Jill, who are you and what are you doing? Oh. There we go. I think I got it. There we go. Okay. Sorry, folks. Sometimes the tech gets the better of you. And sorry, Jill, I'm not sure what you were hoping, but it disabled me, so it's not going to work. Anyway, for those people that would like to become an employment specialist or an employment specialist assistant, that is a very laudable role and profession. I think those that would like to do that, that's great. What we're going to talk about, though, what we're going to focus on is people staying in peer roles, but using that very pureness and the very gifts of lived experience that we bring into work as an adjunct to other roles that already may exist. So we're not going to replace, we're not going to duplicate, but we're going to add to as an adjunct. So we're not going to be there as peer workers trained as employment specialists, though that is a fine direction if people want to do that. But what I'm going to be talking about are different trainings and curriculums and roles where peer workers are actually bringing peer support into the employment environment and really focusing on the idea of employment recovery. I hope people can see the difference of that. One of the reasons why we want to do this is that when we think about employment, we know that benefits are large barriers, and the fear around the stress of work can be a pretty big barrier, as well as a symptom that somebody is currently experiencing. But really, people's beliefs about their ability to work, about the work world, is a far greater barrier than any of those other three. It's things like, I believe that I can't work because I'll lose my benefits, right? I believe that I can't work because I'm too sick. I believe I can't work because it will be too stressful. So it's all of these deep-held beliefs that people have that really end up being the greatest barriers on. I've worked in employment now in a variety of ways since 1990, and it's what I see repeatedly is that people can find a way to shift those inside beliefs, then some of the largest barriers outside are still able to be overcome. But if those inner beliefs are the main barriers, then the slightest barrier outside will become the thing that topples someone. And so we really want to focus on those inner beliefs. And who is better than that for that than peer support? If we're working as a peer support person in a job to support people around employment, we also have our own vocational or employment recovery story to share with people. We have our own experience of deciding, can I work, or am I working at the level I'd like to be? Can I move forward? All of those stages that we went through to sort of get ourselves in a better working situation becomes all new experience that we get to share with other people in the same way that we do in general around recovery. Let me share with you the current landscape, and these are the programs that I know about. That doesn't mean that there aren't more. So if you're involved in a program that supports people around employment and it's not up here, I'm sorry, I'd love to know about it. And I just want to acknowledge there are probably many more. But here are some of the biggest ones that I know about. The first one is comes out of the Consumer Support Program in New Jersey, CSP New Jersey. And they have a training, and then they offer peer support in their wellness centers. It's the kind of, actually, you go to the next slide. It's formatted in a 12-step format. People share their experience, strength, and hope around work. And then people can get concrete support around things like resumes, getting ready for interviews, all that kind of thing. As I say, these are offered, there we go. It's offered in the wellness centers so that it's sort of intermixed with a whole bunch of other wellness activities that are going on. And people can use this just as in a drop-in way, any way they want, or in a more formalized way. The second program is called Project Open, and it stands for Oregon Peer Employment Network. They also have a training, they have a 6-day training course for peer workers on how to support both job and career development, which is really exciting because this means that we're also thinking about education, something that frequently gets ignored when we think about supporting people getting a job. But the reality is that most of us couldn't move up to where we wanted to go without also getting some education. So Project Open thinks about both work and career, which means by default also educational support. There's online resources, and I've put the links in this PowerPoint for you, so when you get it afterwards, there's links to all these programs. And the Project Open website has everything from managing your benefits to ADA advice, thinking through disclosure, all of those kind of basic things that come up when people are considering work. And those are free for public download. It's a great resource. It also links over to a program called Money Basics, and that's an online program that really helps people think about financial self-sufficiency, so setting up things like IDA, individual development account, or work incentive stuff, things that are going to help people as they think about working to also be simultaneously thinking about bettering themselves financially to help with that poverty issue. So these are great resources. Project Open was one of the earliest, as far as I know, programs to really be dedicated to supporting people around work. It's a great program. Another one is one that I'm really honored to be involved with. It's called the Employment Peer Mentor Program, and it's here in North Carolina. We have a 5-day plus online training for employment peer mentors who also support job and career development. What's interesting about the employment peer mentors is North Carolina added a new role onto all teams that are doing the evidence-based supported employment. So that means every team has the usual members plus an employment peer mentor. So that's been very exciting to get that approved and to be doing that training. We've grounded the training in what's called the Choose, Get, Keep model of supported employment, and I'll go over that a little bit later. It's just one of many approaches, but the curriculum, even though it grew from Choose, Get, Keep, it was modified to be a peer-to-peer approach. So it's not them as a provider, but as a peer. A fourth one is called Vocational Peer Support, and that's out of Boston University. And I also was involved in writing this curriculum. And on this one, this is really for certified peer specialists to learn added skills to bring into their regular work when they work within traditional mental health provider agencies, so that they can really be more helpful to people who want to work. It also uses the peer-oriented Choose, Get, Keep approach and supplements all of those great CPS skills that people have. And then finally, the last one that I'm aware of is the CPS and employment support under Medicaid, which is in Pennsylvania. They have a 2-day training for their CPSs. And like the DPS model is for CPSs or certified peer specialists to use employment skills in addition to their CPS work. But it's a Medicaid-funded position, which is great. So people are getting Medicaid funding for supporting people around certain components of not employment itself, but around thinking about choosing, exploring what I might want to do, all of those cool pieces that create the foundation of really moving back into meaningful vocational recovery rather than just getting a job. Here are all the links for you that I mentioned. So I just wanted to let you know that that's there. So as we're seeing with this, there's really been a couple of ways that people have used this. Some have been integrated employment skills with general CPS work, like DPS, BU, or the Pennsylvania model. Others have taken on a new role that uses employment and CPS skills, like the Employment Peer Mentor, Project Open, and CSP New Jersey. Some are offered within the mental health system. Some are offered within peer-operated services. So again, some differences, but despite those differences, there's really a lot of commonality. One is that they may provide concrete support, like resumes, preparing for interview, job searching, and benefits. Much more important, they provide emotional support around changing beliefs around work, sharing wellness skills that are focused on work, opening up the possibilities even that work can happen. These are huge things, and this is the role, more than anything, of employment peer mentoring or employment support or vocational peer support, by whatever name it goes and whatever role or location, that is the biggest place. That is the been there, done that, or that T-shirt that we always want to be thinking about. And recovery support, focusing on that vocational recovery, that career, that future orientation. That takes something like starting at McDonald's and totally reframes it into, I think I'll work at McDonald's so I can learn A, B, and C, or get a little bit of money because then I want to go to school to do D, E, and F. And after that, I want to do H, I, J. So we're dealing with a trajectory that people can see in their future and that they're working towards that meaningful thing in life, not just going to get a job. So I'll give you one example, and that would be using the choose, get, keep model. And it's just one of many, but just to let you see some of the different tasks that peer workers are doing in this role. So if we were doing the choose, get, keep, just the one I'm the most familiar with, you might support people around feeling ready, or as it's called in vocational peer support, supporting people to create motivational foundations. So helping people to answer questions. Do I feel a need? Do I even want to consider work? Do I want to make a change? Do I believe I can do it? Do I believe it would be worth it? Do I have the info I need? All of these kind of questions that are really important to answer to make an informed decision about going to work, right? So the peer worker might support exploration, inspire hope as always, support people to test their beliefs. I can't do it. Well, do we know that that's true? Let's check it out. Let's check it out together. And this is where the unique role of the peer worker comes in because, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but, nobody can say it like a peer worker. An employment specialist can tell somebody, oh, I believe you can do it. But a peer worker can say, well, I know what it was like when I didn't believe I could do it either. And look at me now, I learned that I could do it. So let's do it together. Let's figure out together, is it true that you can't, or are these beliefs that you just picked up along the way, right? Maybe helping people to figure out what's valuable to them. I know when I first walked into my first peer support center, if somebody had asked me what I wanted to do, I didn't know. I wanted to structure my day. That was all I knew to do, I had been in the system for so long that I didn't know what felt important to me anymore. I didn't know what I liked really anymore. And I needed time to learn that and experiences to learn that. And that might be something that we support people with is let's just go out and do some stuff and begin to figure out what is important to you, what do you like, what's valuable to you. Or maybe do some of those values clarification tests together right there online. Do some of the fun ones, right? And then supporting exposure and recovery. So all of these things we can be helping people do just before they even begin to think about, am I going to say I want to think about work or school? What do I want to do? Do I believe I can? Next, in the choosing area, we might support people to think about exploring their hopes and dreams. What do they want? What did they want once? Does it feel doable today? Let's go investigate it. Let's go see what it takes. Let's look at what all the options are, and let's work together for decision making. So as you should be really seeing, these are the same kind of things that we do as CPSs, but now we're doing it just really focused in the area of employment. We should be doing the same things in housing. We should be doing the same things around getting connected to social groups. It's just in this particular one, we're really thinking about employment because it's so important to people. And so we might be helping people to overcome their fears, their doubts, their uncertainties, all of this. And then when we get to the getting a job or getting into school, this is where it gets much more concrete, right? Determining the best match between what somebody wants to do and what the options are. Maybe helping them to create a search plan or a getting work plan or getting into school plan. Maybe creating application, to get ready for an interview. Helping people combat negative self-talk, right? And the biggest of all is to consider the work, Social Security work incentives. This is a piece of this work, and I often say that you can't do this work. It's unethical to do this work without either knowing enough about benefits that you can have a red flag going or finding someone else that knows that. And that's part of all of the curriculum I know of. And my guess is that the curriculum that I'm not intimately familiar with, my guess is that it also includes stuff about Social Security work incentives, because you really can't support people thinking about and taking steps to working if you don't know enough to guide them in a helpful way with their Social Security work incentives. Because people can work. It's unbelievable how much work people can do. I worked for 10 years with the Social Security work incentives, but you've got to know how they work in order to get that. And similarly, helping people with accommodations. An article came out just this week that said that people who used reasonable accommodations had better outcomes in their work. So that's an important thing, is to really try to support people to think through their accommodations, think through the process of disclosure, which is required, and then figuring out what accommodations might be helpful, if any, right? But that's an important component. And all of these are tasks that would be part of this role. And then the often forgotten part of supporting people to keep. We so often support people to think about something they want to get and to help them grow and get it. And then the minute they get it, we abandon them. With employment, with peers in these roles, we always want to be thinking about supporting people to keep it, right? And so ongoing evaluation with the person of how they're doing. Do they have the supports they need? Do they have the skills they need now that they're there? Maybe they started a school program and found out they really need some help with study skills, right? Maybe they need help resolving conflicts with their supervisor, helping with that. Maybe they chose initially not to disclose and get accommodations, and now they want to, so supporting around that. Self-care and ongoing wellness. It's a huge thing when you start work to figure out that work-life balance, Some of us are still working on that 15 years later. Right? How do we do it? Dignity of risk and the normal backlash that always comes for people when they have forward movement, and really supporting people to take those steps, reframe things if they're not totally successful, see things as growth rather than that if they're having a little bit of a hard time, then normalizing it for them, helping people to see their process outside of the lens of illness and pathology, and then ongoing work incentives for folks, because that could go on for years and years that they could use. Could need that kind of support because if you're on the benefits, you may be working with the work incentives for quite a while. So we see that there's tons of tasks that fall under this area of supporting people just around work. And it's a really exciting area that we're going into with it. And I think Joe Marrone said it best years ago when he said, if you think work is stressful, by unemployment, social isolation, and poverty, this is what we're trying to support people to have an alternative to. And that's why I think it's so important. I think the curriculum that's out there is really helpful to get people some tools to help people around work. And yet the majority of the skills that we go into are basic CPS skills. So I've linked to right there for you articles or links or whatever I could find that would help you to connect to the curriculum that we've talked about and some other curriculum that's out there. And with that, I think we have about 15 minutes left. And so I wanted to open it up to questions or thoughts. I know you guys have had your phone muted. That means you have to just listen to me and not really have much chance to do questions. So I'm wondering if anybody wants to type in, or I don't know if we even dare unmute Peter, but you tell me.
If I unmute, it's going to be too much of a problem. Let's use the chat box function. Please use the chat box to take and bring up any questions that you have, and Rita and I and Steve will bring those forward to Lyn for her response. Lyn, I want to thank you for a wonderful, very, very enlightening presentation. You've done a great job of taking a tough subject and making it understandable for all of us, and I thank you very much for that. And now, let's hear from our audience. I'm sure there's some questions here. Either that or else you left them mesmerized with all the information that you gave them, Lyn. I'm not sure what happened here. But...
Well, I know it is one of those topics that can feel a little pedantic, and I'm sorry about that. But
no worries.
Yeah.
I have a question from Patricia and Rita. I think you're going to answer this one. Will we be able to obtain the PowerPoint presentation, Rita?
Absolutely. I don't hear Rita, so.
Yes, and you can get it as soon as you take the quiz. The quiz is now posted. It's on our website.
Okay, the next question we have are, what are some examples of helping to find out the interest and skills someone should tap into? So that's a very good question. So Lyn, how do we take and really determine what a person would be interested in terms of employment? What are some of the things that we can do to find that out?
That is a great question, both the interest and the skill. And there's a few ways that I will frequently do that. One way that I love to do it is I love to just walk around and watch people working and say to people, what do you think of that? Or ask them, what things have you seen on TV that interest you? So I always start in really a general area to just say, what have you seen before? Or let's go look at some stuff. And you can do that walking around the street, give you a chance to begin building more on your relationship. There's also interest inventories. And there's some of them that are online that are great fun to do. And if I do that, I will often do it with the person. Meaning I do my own while they do theirs. It's just a way to keep it more clear. And then it's another place where ER comes in very handy. They do interest inventories and can be a great partner with you. By ER, sorry, I mean your local vocational rehabilitation. So it might be called VR, or some states we call it a rehabilitation commission. So whatever the state vocational rehab center is, they can offer things like skills testing and interest inventories and all sorts of things like that that the person can take advantage of. And I think that the more the merrier. I think a little bit of everything is how to get it instead of just relying on one of those. And then on skills, I will often ask people, what have you done in your life? And things like, people will say, I got jobs and they weren't good. And I'd say, well, we always remember what was bad about the job, but what was good about the job? What did you do that you liked? Or what you do when you're hanging around that you liked? And I always try to start from that self-place, because I think whenever we can support people to see that they have strengths right now that they use, I think it's great. And then things that I've observed, I will tell people. I'll tell them things like, I see you in here supporting other people all the time. You've some great skills with that. And then, again, VR is another great resource for more formal skills testing.
Our next question is, this is my last day as a vocational rehabilitation specialist at the Fayetteville VA. I used peer support skills to help the homeless veterans that I work with and now have to use them to find another job. What other information should I use to find a job at my age?
Well, anyway, what's hard is I believe, the best way to put a job in 2014 is through connections. It's much less of a time when we get jobs through interviewing and resumes. It's much more a time of connection. So I would be doing things like LinkedIn. Social networking is so much a part of our life, for better or for worse. I'd be posting it on Facebook, things like that, and getting into there and talking amongst all my friends. And that, I think, is more effective in this day and age than pounding the pavement. And so, should we let everybody here know that you're looking for a job doing some vocational peer support, it sounds like?
Okay, our next comment is, thanks for the information. How about asking them what they like to do as a kid, since they may not be able to express interest as an adult, i.e. working with animals, elderly, sports, etc. In other words, starting from ground zero. That's an interesting comment from Lisa. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to go, Lisa. If they can't connect to anything today, I will frequently do that and say, what about when you were a kid? Or I'll ask people, I'll say, if you could take a magic wand and take, this diagnosis away and see if it never happened, what do you imagine your life would have been? And again, that's drawing from their childhood memories of where they think they were going to go. Yep.
Okay, Patricia also mentioned to you, that was the previous question, that she is a certified peer specialist. I beg your pardon?
Steve, you were muffled.
Lyn, are you there?
I'm here, yep.
Okay, all right. I don't have any other questions in the chat function right now. Any last minute questions before we end the seminar? All right, hearing none, I think it's very important for us all to thank Lyn for bringing us some wonderful material. And hold on a minute, we do have one more question. Charles said I just made a comment. I didn't see Charles's comment.
Yep.
we make it to you.
And I would like to say that, I encourage people, especially if you work in an agency, to, if this is an area that you're interested in, it's an area that is really getting more funding, more interest, and so forth. So if it's an area that you're interested in, really pursue it. And my guess is that you'll be able to get some funding from somewhere to do something in your agency. It's so important. And I think peers are going to change the tide of employment support. So go get them.
We have one more comment, Lyn. Let me go back to it here. This is from Charles. What is the website that the test will be listed? Oh, this is for Rita. What is the website that the test will be listed at? And I also wanted to say you were absolutely wonderful. So much information. And that was my question. How does VR play a role in our success? But see, you already answered it. So thank you, Charles. So again, Rita, it's going to be on the N.A.P.S website, and they have to take a test. You want to go over that again with them, Rita? Rita, are you on mute?
Not anymore. There's a 5-question quiz that we just ask people to take so that we can verify for purposes of some places want to issue continuing education units. We need to verify that you actually sat through the webinar. So we just ask you to take a 5-question quiz. At the end of that quiz, there's a self-assessment that you can see what the correct answer choices were. And at the end of the self-assessment, that's where you'll find the slides for this particular webinar. Because if we gave you the slides, then that would kind of defeat the purpose of, the continuing education unit, that validity. So that's why we do it the way we do.
Thank you very much, Rita. Dan has said we are the only general hospital to have a peer support in ER in Texas. Is there any training for emergency department? I would think that one of the things you might want to consider, Dan, is whole health training. Training and looking at the whole health of the person, both physical and mental health aspects of the person. I do know that there are other emergency room departments. I know in Pierce County we have it, that are staffed with peer support. So you're not the only one in Texas, but you're not the only one in the country, but there are others that are going on. So. And then from Takesha, hi Lyn, my name is Gloria and I am an EPM and a key... I beg your pardon? Key change for individuals is finding a place of meaning, not just a job. That's changed my life, and it was a wonderful experience for me.
That's right, and that's the point. I see this also a question saying, how do you keep hope up when finding employment seems so hopeless sometimes? And, we've been through an incredibly difficult economic time, and it certainly hits our community a lot harder than anyone else's. And that's why I said this isn't about getting a job. This is about finding what has meaning for you. And it may be that if, the person is having a hard time finding a job right now, that the trick is to go to plan B of what will get the person one step closer to where they want to go. And it might be take a course this semester and while you're keeping up your job search, or, this job instead because you can get these skills over here, which is going to allow you to get the other job that's more available or whatever. So it is being really trying to be creative and trying to always go to a plan B, keeping the big picture in mind, eye on the prize rather than the minutia of the day, to keep going, because I think when we've got a bigger prize out there, we also find that we have many more loops. It's like getting to the top of the mountain, you're only thinking about how do I get from here to there. There's only one route. But if you look up to the top of the mountain, there's all of these different routes coming down. And, sometimes the work that we do as somebody who's sort of outside, we can help them and to say, all right, this route isn't doing it, but maybe together we can walk over to this other route and try to go up that way, because it can feel really hopeless sometimes.
Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat box. I want to thank you very much, Lyn. You did a superb job. We couldn't ask for a better presentation, and certainly one that was completely informative to our audience. I've seen a lot of chat comments thanking you, Lyn, for a great performance, for a great webinar. And we thank you, and we hope you all come back to our webinars that are going to be coming up in the future.
I thank you all, and be well.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Rita. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.